An Irish Christmas. Rose Cottage was as pretty as a picture, with her fresh new coat of paint, all her lights glowing brightly, and everything in its place to welcome Dennis Liam O'Regan and his dear wife Amy home at last to spend Christmas in Ireland. With them for their blessed holiday were their friends Elizabeth and Ned and the children, Stacey, Danial and little John. Tired from their long journey home, everyone agreed Rose Cottage was a fitting name, for to their travellers' eyes she was as beautiful as any rose they'd ever seen. Inside the cottage, the old wooden staircase groaned mightily under the weight when Dennis and Ned carried all the heavy bags up. "Here's a job worth doing, Ned," Dennis said. "I believe this staircase needs looking at." Ned, who never treasured the notion of work, said, "Jesus, Mary and Joseph, you and your chores." "If you're not thinking about chores, it isn't day yet, Dennis. You can count on me to look at this staircase every evening when I go up to sleep and every morning when I come down again." Amy made all the beds and spread the down comforters, while Elizabeth busied herself in the kitchen checking the cupboards and making a list of provisions to buy at the market. Little John brought in an armful of peat and some dry wood and soon had a nice fire going. In no time at all they were settled and warm and content to pass their first evening at Rose Cottage in the pleasure of their own company. The next day was Christmas Eve, and they were up with the chirp of the sparrow and into the village for last-minute shopping. The children's eyes grew brilliant with excitement when they saw the big front windows of the shops decorated in every colour of the rainbow. Christmas lights had been strung in the streets, and a live evergreen tree stood over the front door of every building, even the pubs. "The devil must be in you today, Ned," Elizabeth said. "In your life you've never been for letting go of a pound, and here you are now in town for shopping." "Don't leap at me that way on the eve of the blessed Jesus' birthday, Lizzie. Is it my fault they're holding the races today? You girls, go on with your shopping. Dennis and I will see if the local ponies have 4 legs under them." "I want to see the races too," said little John. "Well, come along then, and we'll have a grand day." The races were indeed a wonder, and little John was lost in astonishment, but there was still time after for the men to do their Christmas shopping. Dennis found a fine wool cape for his Amy, Ned bought a handsome sweater for Elizabeth, and little John got woven scarves for the girls. That night, Amy and Elizabeth prepared a fine supper of crab cakes, baked potatoes, and a mighty apple cake. Stacey and Danial made wreaths of holly with ribbon to hang over the doors and spread green boughs of pine and cedar on the windowsills and on the mantel over the fireplace. Little John put oil in the lanterns and trimmed the wicks. After that, he placed a lighted candle in each window. Together, the children arranged all the Christmas presents, resplendent in their colourful wrappings, on the hearth before the fire. When it was all done, Amy came in from the kitchen and said, "My love to God, isn't Rose Cottage brilliant?" "Not more brilliant than her mistress," Dennis smiled. "Get away with you. Have you drink taken today? You're a mighty plump Christmas gander sitting there before the flames, every piece of you idle but your tongue. If I'm a plump gander, then you are my saucy goose, and now I'll hear no more talk on the subject." "Bless your soul, you're on the way of truth now, Dennis, for you are off to the victualler to pick up the Christmas turkey. You come too, Ned. I hear McCarthy's given a drop of grog with his turkeys today." "Is he now? Then I'll gladly come." So it went throughout the evening. Everyone was in spirits, and there was much love going around Rose Cottage. After dinner, the children began a knowledge game. "Who was the 36th President of the United States?" Stacey asked. "John Fitzgerald Kennedy," someone answered. "Who won the most gold medals at the 1936 Olympics?" asked Danial. Elizabeth answered, "Jesse Owens." "Name a country on the Iberian Peninsula," was Ned's question. "España, Spain," little John said. The game went on for some time, but it was soon agreed Amy and Elizabeth were the clear winners. "How do you get to know so much?" Little John asked. "You just have to keep your eyes open and live long enough, John," Elizabeth said. In a short time they heard a knock at the door. It was a custom that villagers called on their neighbours on Christmas Eve, but as they'd been gone for so long, they couldn't imagine who it might be. Dennis opened the door and said, "Welcome to Rose Cottage. There's no grief in this house tonight." To their surprise, who was it but Noreen Parnell, local publican, and her nephew Tim, come to welcome them to the village and spread the joy of the blessed holiday. Dennis filled the glasses, and they sat in comfort while Noreen told the news of the village. "The farmers have had a grand year. The grain's coming high and plentiful, and the cows are very nearly going down under their own weight. There were 3 weddings in the spring, and a half-dozen children produced by the marriages of the year before. And isn't it sad Mickey O'Sullivan's gone up to our father's loving arms, but hadn't he been in such pain for so long? It was a blessing anyway. The Fenton place burned to the ground this fall, but Margaret is the only Fenton left, and she's been living in Dublin for 2 years. I doubt she knows the place is gone yet. And tourists fill the roadways now in the summertime. You can't move a goat's leap without bumping into a German or worse, a Frenchman. Where are the travellers who'll show some consideration for the local ways? The village is changing with the times, and I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. Forever gone are the days when every villager had the pick of the lake, the hunt of the hill, the fish of the sea, and the wool of the sheep. So, will you be coming out to the pub tonight, Dennis? Seamus has been every night asking for your news. Since you've come, you're all he talks about. I hope he won't keep you for hours. You know the mouth he has on him for gossip." "God's love on Seamus," Dennis said. "He's a man of strong opinion. For 2 nights my ears have heard the patter of snow on the window panes and the winter wind whistling through the trees. I think I can suffer the braying of an ass for part of an evening. How about you, Ned? Are you for a pub crawl?" "I'm parched to the bone, Dennis. I can think of nothing better." "You two be home in time for Christmas Mass," the ladies chorused. And they were. The great day arrived at last. Amy and Elizabeth were up early preparing the Christmas dinner, and a fine aroma filled Rose Cottage. Dennis swept and scrubbed the hearth and had a glowing fire burning while Ned cut more wood to burn with the turf. "You men take the children out of the house today, or we'll never get this dinner on the table," Amy said. "I wonder that they're still asleep even now." Just then they heard chatter and laughter coming from upstairs. Suddenly the door burst open, and the clamour and the clatter poured down the stairs and into the kitchen. You would think they'd been in prison for many a long day and had just been let out. "I'm hungry. What's for breakfast?" Little John demanded. Elizabeth said, "Your father and Uncle Dennis will take you to town for breakfast, and then you'll see some pretty sights, and when you come home, we'll open presents and have a lovely Christmas dinner." "Hooray!" said Stacy. "Presents?" said Danial. "Christmas dinner," said Little John. So it was that Dennis and Ned spent the day with the children. A cold day, and the wind was fierce, but the sun shone brightly, and the children rejoiced in climbing all the way to the top of Browhead. Below them lay the village of Crookhaven, and beyond that, Fastnet Rock with her mighty lighthouse flashing in the 4 directions across the Atlantic Ocean. "You can see forever," Donnell said. Some used to say the Fastnet is a tear shed by Mother Ireland for the millions of her sons and daughters whose last view of home was from immigrant boats sailing west to freedom in the United States, Dennis said. Noreen was right about the way things change, Ned. At one time, these cliffs were the end of the known universe. Now, New York is just the next parish. Then it was over the hill and along the coast road to have a look at Dunmanus Bay. There they had a brilliant view before their eyes north and east past Dorse to the parish of Bantry. They could see the Caha Mountains and follow them west to Dursey Head and beyond that to the hills of County Kerry that rise above the Kenmare River. Everywhere they looked, green fields rose, dotted here and there with lovely houses, and away at the foot of the hills they saw Sheep's Harbour and a half-dozen fishing boats rocking at their anchors. "You should thank God for giving you the eyes in your head to see this, children," Ned said. Stacy and Donnell picked winter flowers near the beach at Barley Cove, and said if little John collected some pretty shells, they'd make an arrangement for the Christmas table. "Hurry along, John, for it's time now to go home and open presents." What presents they were! Stacy and Danial loved their new scarves, but they were especially surprised to each unwrap a big box of chocolates. Little John got a new jacket and cap and a flashlight small enough to fit into his pocket. Amy delighted in her new cape, but she had another present too. While some might be of the opinion an electric washing machine and tumble dryer are not the most romantic Christmas gifts, they were just what Amy wanted. Later, when Dennis and Ned hooked them up in the little stone garage, from that day forward it was no longer called just the garage, but forever became known as My Beautiful Laundrette. Elizabeth unwrapped her new sweater and wore it for the rest of the day. What had Ned found on the hearth for himself? A fine flask filled with brandy from Dennis and Amy. Grand! Little John lit the candles on the Christmas table and all said a prayer to Jesus. Then, much to everyone's delight, Stacy and Danial sang Silent Night and Joy to the World. Amy brought the turkey to the table on a fine cart, and what a beautiful bird it was. Ned carved while Dennis served the potatoes, leeks and creamed onions. Never had Rose Cottage seen such a meal. They sat down, raised their glasses, and Dennis gave a toast. "May you always have 3 blessings, a garden in summer, a fireside in winter, and whatever the time or season, the kind eyes of a friend. Happy Christmas, Dennis and Amy. Happy Christmas, Elizabeth. Happy Christmas, children. Happy Christmas, Ned."
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us gather near to us once more. Through the years we all will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now.